Lesson 2. I'm going to throw you a curveball here because I know that this is a hips thing, but guess what? Your hips are part of the rest of your body, and I want to talk about intra-abdominal pressure. What this is going to do is help you to stabilize through your midsection and also get you in better touch with what your back is doing when you're doing your hip exercises. So I'm not going to say it's necessarily a prerequisite to work on your hips, but it is really, really helpful. So intra-abdominal pressure is something that is a little bit new to me, but I've been playing with by working with colleagues and getting my own work done with some practitioners near me. So if you want to learn more about this, find yourself a dynamic neuromuscular stabilization practitioner around you. There's probably other people too, but I just know to point you in that direction. I've worked with somebody from an organization called BirthFit, and I've also worked with Locatelli Rao out of Pasadena and Moses Bernard out in Tampa. So those are some examples of people that you can look for, but DNS courses, okay? And Victor Elmer is out in the Midwest somewhere. But anyway, so what we're going to look at is our ability to engage our core in 360 degrees. I'm going to give you a couple of simple ways to think about this. So to start off, you just put your hands into your side, and I want you to grip your fingertips in a little bit, okay? And I want you to breathe. So I've got my thumbs engaged in the back. I have my fingers engaged in the front, okay? If this isn't comfortable for you, try a different spot. And I just want you to breathe so that you feel expansion on both sides, okay? Let's do this all together. And yes, you are supposed to be able to expand your back. Yeah, that was 5 times for me. So let's take it, so if that was difficult for you, let's break down a little bit farther. Take your fingertips and press them into a part of your abdomen, okay? So it could be really low. We'd like to get all of this able to expand, because the more ranges of expansion that we have, that was ridiculous. The more ranges that we have to expand into, the easier your body gets. So imagine, think of like a stiff piece of leather, right? It never gets moved, and if you start to work it a little bit, and breathing is the highest rep thing you do every day, when you have more availability, that means that you're getting more motion in those areas. It means you're getting more fluid through those tissues. It means you're getting greater electricity through those tissues if you're getting more fluid through those tissues, because as stuff passes through, it's not stiff. And you see somebody that, and you find areas that you can't breathe into consciously, you're probably going to find that you're really stiff there, okay? So let's do this again. So just pick an area and poke your fingers into your belly, okay? And then go ahead and try to breathe in a way that you feel your fingers get pushed out. Ready? I'm going to do 5 breaths here. Go ahead and keep doing that. Stay in your same spot and practice. I'm going to move to a different spot just to show you different things, okay? Go ahead, breathe 5 more. And then go ahead and change, if you didn't follow me anyway, which I suspect a lot of you did, and try to find another area and challenge yourself to breathe into there. Go ahead. Okay, bring it down to the ground. You're going to put your feet up on the wall, or you could have your legs up on a couch, and your back is flat on the floor, okay? Make sure you're in a comfortable, pain-free position, and I'd like you to do the same thing here. We're building up. Go ahead and push your fingers into somewhere in your diaphragm. Try lower if you haven't yet, and breathe 5 breaths here. The other reason gaining control of our back is so important to our hip movement is because so many of us, a really high percentage of people watching this, probably use their back as their hips. And that's one of the reasons why we want to identify hip motion, but we want to be able to feel when we're using our back. So I'm going to take a little time here, and I'd like you to join me. You're going to join me. You're going to join me. And just for a minute or two, poke around and figure out what areas you can't breathe into. And if you find one, go ahead and stick with that for a little bit, okay? So I'll just count off my own breaths, and then I'll stop and call us all back together, okay? Go ahead. Resting yourself against the wall. It could be bent, could be straight. Back is flat. That's the first thing I want you to do. So your knees are bent enough that your back is flat on the floor. Okay, you can feel the whole thing there. A lot of times people do this on a foam roller. It can help you keep contact if you're not sure. Okay, so go ahead and begin poking around, seeing where you can and can't breathe into. And it'll be different side to side too, so don't be afraid to do one hand at a time. Okay, finish your breaths. Next step, take your fingers again, and you can go to an area that you felt like you could get engagement into, and I want you to be able to push your fingers out using your muscles. This is going to be, your diaphragm is a big portion of this, okay? Right now, because your back is flat, your diaphragm and your pelvic floor are stacked and nice and aligned, okay? So press out so that you can't push your fingers in. So push in first, then push them back out. And now, without losing that, continue to breathe. So your fingers aren't sinking in anymore. You still have that tactile feedback, and practice being able to breathe. I'm still talking, so I'm able to do this. It's so relaxing. Right, so go ahead and practice that. And notice if you have a lot of in and out motion. Maybe you're keeping a little bit of it. Maybe you're not able to keep any of it. So just work on this. 10 or 15 breaths, okay? You could also move on to another spot if that feels easy to you. Try to fill in all the gaps. I call this just adding a little puff. Puff and hold while still being able to breathe. So you're pressurizing the cylinder and maintaining that pressure. FYI, you're probably going to be sorer than you expect here from this. Okay, step 3. We're almost done. Well, we got a couple more steps. All right, this may be a half-hour-long class. Now, I'm going to spin myself off the wall, so now I've got to support myself with my muscles, okay? And I'd like you to feel that. You're going to open your knees. Your knees are past your hip line, as long as you don't have any pain there. Open the knees slightly so the heels are slightly towards each other, okay? Raise your hands over your head, and so it's imagine that I've got a stability ball kind of framed here like it's on a trophy stand. From here, I'd like you to begin to lower one leg and then lower the other leg, just as if I'm just placing it on the floor. I don't have to straighten it out, okay? And so you just got really good contact with your midsection, and I want you to pay attention if you feel like you start to lose it. If you're not sure, use your hands. That's why I'm starting with just the legs. It's only going to be a few inches of motion. So you've pressurized the cylinder. You have a great stable support using your diaphragm for that stabilization. And you'll notice as you start to get farther away, either your back will start to arch, maybe, if you haven't done this yet, or you feel like you start to lose that pressure. So only go as far as you can maintain your puff. Puff, puff, puff. And are you puffed all the way around or just in one direction? Okay. If you feel like you've got it, add the hands. We're going to do a cross-body pattern. A little dead bug here. Alternating back and forth. That's the trickiest part of all, is just trying to make it so that you don't wave everything around at the same time. I've gotten a lot better at this over the past few weeks. And you're paying attention to your core. Now see if you can let a little bit of pressure out so that you're using a minimally effective dose. You don't have to go to maximum pressure. Notice what your back is doing. Notice what your abs are doing. Okay. All right. Next step is Cecily Milne had a great cue with this that I really loved, right? So I can stand here and I can tuck my pelvis under and I can stick my butt out, right? So it's this lumbar, it's this tuck the pelvis, lift the pelvis, right? And so, move it all around, get your salsa dancing on, but it's super important to be able to control that. But look at that. I need motion through each of my vertebrae to get nutrition, nourishment through those discs. It's really important that you get those daily movements through your day. So hopefully you're already doing your thoracic cars from any of the number of videos that we do, okay? But I also want to be able to control this. So since you just got in such good contact with yourself here, right, with what that feels like to be aligned, I want you to think of this way. If your pelvis starts to come forwards, I'm just going to bring the rest of the spine with it. And if I start to go back, as I come back up, I can think of that I'm tucking the pelvis, but the rest of me is coming with it, okay? So you're just going to practice your hip hinge. So I'm moving together. I feel connected and stable. Check in. Can you do a little puff? And can you maintain that puff so you have soft knees? And do you feel like you're still moving in line? We're just increasing your spatial awareness of yourself. You can do this. There's so many videos out there. You could do this with a dowel on your back. You could do this, all this stuff. You could monitor yourself here, right? But I'm just practicing another way of moving while maintaining as much of that alignment that we just worked on as possible, okay? Now, why is that important for your hips? When I go into my hip-controlled articular rotations, I'm now more conscious of the alignment of my back, right? So I go here, if I feel like I do that, I can feel how it feels different through my midsection. If I reach into extension and I do all this, I can feel. If I'm totally leaning forward, hopefully I'll be able to feel there, okay? So we're going to go into a standing hip-controlled articular rotation, but we're going to, so we already did our capsular cars in the last one. You spent all day yesterday fiddling with this stuff, right? Open and close chain, rotating through the femur, in the acetabulum, in the socket, right? all this stuff, and trying different angles of that. It could even be behind you. So getting that ability to dissociate your pelvis from your femur, right? And now we're going to put it all together into a little bit of a motion, okay? So from here, we already know what internal rotation is, right? So I'm going to come up into flexion. I'm going to bring it out into abduction. That means that I'm bringing this as far away from this hip as possible. You can use the wall for support, okay? From here, I'm going to stay high, so pay attention to your core and pull that heel out to the side. Did you do this? That doesn't seem very aligned in your cylinder, now does it? Right? So this stays still, bring it out to the side. Now I've got internal rotation. Bring it out as far as I can and back. So reaching back now, my heel to my butt, open it out to the side. Pay attention to what your core is doing. Come back in. And if you want to, you can add adduction, adduction, and external rotation by bringing your heel towards the wall. Okay? So if you haven't been doing it yet, let's do this together. We're going to do it 5 times. And there's another thing. We want to dissociate our knee from our hip as well. So I'm going to go grab a tennis ball, and I'll make a note in the front of this that you should grab a tennis ball. You could also tie a belt around your waist to give you a little bit of feedback for what your upper body's doing as well. But this is just going to dissociate my knee from the rest of it. So bringing my knee like that. If you want to challenge yourself, the farther down you are, the harder it's going to be because you're doing more short hamstring strength. You can make yourself cramp pretty easily with that, okay? So it's just creating a little bit more of a radiation. So the radiation being making the rest of my body a solid rock, using our intra-abdominal pressure, making it more expensive to the nervous system. We're going to do 5 of these, and I'd like you to practice doing at different levels of intensity. So at least 3 different levels. The first one, we're going to go nice and light. Then I'd like you to work on resisting yourself, and I'll guide you through that, okay? So starting off, I've got a little hold in the ball. I'm not squeezing the bejesus out of it. I have this for balance if I need to. Go up into flexion. Pay attention to what your core is doing. Open into abduction. You can even think about rotating the other hip bone towards the wall. Internal rotation, notice what your upper body's doing. And then bring it back into extension. Reach back, squeeze your butt. Again, since I've got this contact here, I know I'm not going to do that. Opening the scissor up. Reach out to the side. Keep that upper body tall and come in. Adduct, heel in. Now, push up into your hand a little bit, right? Feel that resistance? Now add your hand to the side. Push against your hand so you've got a little bit of resistance there, and then internal rotation and back. Reach back, come out, resist yourself on the way in, adduct and externally rotate. Okay, that's 2. All the way up. Let's go a little harder this time. All the way out. Pushing, 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 separating your hips, tall base leg. Internally rotate and back. Squeeze the ball a little harder now. Bring it back, open out, bring it in, adduct, and there. We have 2 more. Up, out, rotate, and back, back, out, bring it in, and across. Last one. Up, out, rotate, and back, back, out, in, and across. So we just did a mild acceleration just to give you a little bit of feedback with that. My base leg is tired. I haven't been doing this as much as I should lately. I just I'll get my motions in, but this is a little bit more of a workout if you want it to be. You can resist yourself as much as you want. You could use bands for resistance. You can put ankle weights. But first, we just need you to be able to do it and feel what's going on and working on what you can do, right? And trusting yourself to go in a range that doesn't feel painful, right? Remember, we reviewed that. If you haven't looked at last class, don't just skip to this one. There's a reason these are in order. All right, adding tennis ball on this side. So I'm tall. I'm in contact with my core. For a second, let's reset. So I'm here, puff. Pelvis leads the way. Feel that stack. Maintain your puff for stability. Okay, add the ball. Come into flexion, abduction. You should feel some wonky stuff over here. I also am a huge fan of doing these complete stops. It changes everything from trying to go just from one thing to the other. So think about separating this knee. Think about separating this knee from this hip. Okay, so I'm not following. Again, we're not doing the rotation, right? Out. Internally rotate. Pay attention to your cylinder. Reach back. Reach back. Come out, in, adduct, external rotation, up, flexion, out, abduction, heel up, internal rotation, reach back, extension, reach back, extension, come back out into your internal rotation and abduction, flexion, adduction, external rotation. Resist yourself a little bit. Push up into your hand, then out into your hand. Resist. 2, internal, and back. This is 2 or 3. Uh-oh. Reach back. Come out. Resist yourself a little bit in. Squeeze the ball a little harder. And external. Let's do 2 more. Up, out, in, and back. Pay attention to your cylinder. Back, out, in, and up and across. Last one. Up, out, rotate, and back, back, out, in, across. Okay, so how'd you do? So you have 2 different kinds of cars already, and if you think about it, you can make these shapes in any position that you want. You could be doing this as quarter cars. If you find that you've got a difficult time doing any of those transitions, we're going to do 5 of, let's do that. We'll finish up, okay? We're going to do 5 transitions, transition pieces, okay? So put the ball aside so you can focus a little bit here. Yeah, I think. You're just going to go from position 1 to position 2 a few times, 5 times in each direction. We're going to get a little workout today. Bring your knee up. Just practice going up and out 5 times. Back in. So just doing your in flexion, we're doing abduction and adduction. Out and in. Paying attention to your cylinder, paying attention to your base hip. Out, in, that's 3. Out, in, that's 4. Out, in, that's 5. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go from abduction into internal rotation. Right, so you're just practicing, we're out, rotate, and back. So it's just the capsular car. 2, and back. 3, and back. 4, and back. 5, and back. Okay, approach 3 is going to be transitioning from internal rotation into extension. So this back side of it, okay? It's a tricky one. And this is the one where our backs tend to want to do the most for us. So really pay attention to what you're doing here. And I would say another way that you could practice this that's a little easier would actually be to drape yourself over a bench or a massage table or something like that and practice your motion because you, yeah, it'll just be easier, all right, to be on a step or a wall or something like that. But let's do this together. So we're out, we're internally rotated. We're going to practice just this. 1, 2, 3. Just going to the knees together. 4 and 5. Great. And then just come back into flexion. And we're going to just work. We already did adduction a bit because we went out and in. We're just going to go external rotation. Okay, so we want to get that too. Heel in and out. Heel in and out. And 3 and 4. Notice how still the upper body is. And 5. Okay, other side. Ready? So we're going up. And we're just practicing abduction. So we're separating this hip from there and going all the way back and forth. Flexion with abduction and adduction. Ready? 1, 2, focus. 3, 4, 5. Okay, rest for a second if you need to. Next is abduction with internal rotation. Ready? 1. Even if you barely move, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Internal rotation through extension. Backside of your circle, paying your really strict attention to what you're doing here. Okay, so we're basically in our fire hydrant and back, knees together, making the biggest circle you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, last one, external rotation from flexion. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hopefully you're feeling good, okay? So here's your education, and I hope that you really enjoyed this one because this was a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people. Share with your friends. Even if they didn't sign up, it's up to you. I'll let you decide that.